Once upon a time, there was a sweet girl of only 13 who spotted a young man of 16. It was love at first sight, because with one glance she knew that this was the man she was going to marry. She was so certain that she proclaimed this news to her mother just moments after, and 7 years later, her prophecy came true. By that time, though, the young man was an officer in the Air Force, and the young girl, now a woman, a junior at Rutgers University. They had a small window to tie the knot before he was stationed in Great Falls, Montana, and they made another big leap, leaving the home they both knew on the East Coast for the wide-open plains of Big Sky Country. Unfortunately, there was a housing shortage on the Air Force Base, so they had to find something else. After dozens of calls and appointments to see vacant apartments, the strangest thing kept happening. As soon as they would show up to see the available apartment, it was miraculously occupied. And that is because they look like me. The young couple in that story are my parents. And while the year was 1967 and we weren't quite in post-racial America, it was obvious that the reason nobody would rent to them and why they had to live apart for an entire year on opposite sides of the country was because they were Black. Now, had they sounded Black, they might not have had the roller coaster ride of being excited about finding an apartment, only to have the letdown of being turned away because when they showed up, they weren't what was expected. So you see, I come by my nondescript voice honestly. I also don't have a Black scent, as I call it. This has been both an attribute and a detriment to my personal and professional life. I've been teased by friends, family members, even lovers, about the fact that I don't sound Black. See, I grew up in a place called Plano, Texas, a place that happens to have the ethnic diversity of Sweden. This is me in second grade. Fourth grade, can you spot me? I played soccer. Take your time, I know it's difficult. And sixth grade. This continued on for the rest of my high school career, actually even college. My senior year of high school, I starred in an all-white production of the play A Raisin in the Sun. 2 guesses on who the raisin was. My real-life experiences became material for my comedy. And that is because that's what comedy does. That's the genius of it. It takes something that's painful and turns it on its head so that it takes the sting out of it. Now, I didn't realize my voice was that unusual until high school, when I transferred schools so I would have access to a media class, but also to more African American students. After I transferred schools, nothing could have prepared me for having the Black students tell me that I didn't belong with them because I didn't sound like them and I didn't talk like them. That's when I realized that I was different. I was unique. I was kind of out of the box, if you will. Now, here's the thing about stand-up comedy. Stand-up comedians, we're unusual. I know this may come as a shock to you, but we're like the island of misfit toys, okay? Each one of us has something unique, something different, some little quirk. But we all know that we belong because of that. And I think that's the one thing that kept me going. For the longest time, I thought that my voice was going to be a detriment to me. And it was. It was. Comedy bookers, agents, casting directors, they had no idea what to do with me. They were like, sure, she's funny, but where do we plug her in? She's not loud, she's not brash. She doesn't sound like everyone else we're seeing on TV. She certainly doesn't roll her neck and have that sassy attitude. What do we do with her? That was always the question, what do we do with her? And forever, that seemed like the question until one day I received a call out of the blue. A call from a comedy booker who I'd worked with years ago, asking me if I'd be interested in a radio, possibly television opportunity. Well, any comic instantly says yes to that. Then he told me who that position would be with. My response was, nappy-headed hose, Don Imus? This was a huge, huge thing to contemplate. I was curious, but reluctant. But I also knew that this was a chance to be something and do something big. So I agreed to meet with a man who at the time was one of the most reviled men in the media because of the disparaging remarks he made about the Rutgers women's basketball team. We both knew I was perfect for the job. It was the perfect scenario. I was black, not too black, right? He needed a smart, funny, intelligent woman of color who could do comedy, talk politics, and news of the day. I needed a new vehicle to be a beacon of light and truth, something that I'd always dreamed of being and doing. So when we met, I knew with everything in my being that this was something I was supposed to do.
8 months after being fired from CBS Radio for racially charged remark, Don Imus is back on the air. He says he has learned his lesson. Imus returned this morning with a new cast, which includes 2 African-American comedians. Eyewitness News reporter Tim Fleischer was there for Imus's first day back.
Hi, I'm Imus in the morning.
A fresh start for Don Imus, this time on a different radio station. Diversifying the staff, Imus is now joined by comedian Karith Foster.
If I didn't feel he was sincere in his efforts to turn a very awful negative situation into a positive one that creates a dialogue as well about race, I wouldn't be here. For the first time ever, there was stress in my family. There was division. My mother was strongly opposed for all of the motherly reasons, and my father supported me and the cause. I had no idea how anyone else was going to view me. It was probably one of the most stressful situations I had ever been in. Was I going to be seen as a sellout or as a champion? All I knew was that in my heart of hearts, it was the right thing to do. About a year later, my naivete wore off. It wore off the moment he said to me, Karith, you're too nice and you don't make fun of black people. I think a dagger through the heart would have been less painful. It became clear that I was being asked to do the unthinkable. My boss had grown comfortable in his newfound position on the airwaves. The angst and spotlight of not having to prove he wasn't racist had waned. It had gone unsaid for months, but was inferred that I was to be the voice that he couldn't be. I could not, I would not. The black girl magic was gone, and so was I. I left the Imus in the Morning show, deflated, defeated, dismissed, feeling as though I'd failed myself, my family, my gender, my race. This was my opportunity to represent the black community, and I did it well. This was also my chance to have had a voice with his audience, a group of people who had probably never interacted with anyone like me before. So when everything came crashing down, it took me months to recover. It took me months to understand that there was nothing wrong with me. And that's the thing. It's almost never you. After some time, I came to realize that I still needed to use my talent, my humor, my voice for good. And that has manifested in an incredible speaking career, which has landed me in, of all places, a TEDx. Y'all, here's the thing. Sometimes you choose risk, and sometimes risk is thrust upon you. There is power in being yourself in a world that wants and expects something else. Being true to you is quite possibly the greatest risk you will ever take, and the most daring one. So never let anyone deny, dismiss, or squander the power of your voice. Honor the power of your voice because it's yours. It's unique. And you never know who might be listening or whose life it will change, including your own.